Hey, and welcome back to the MGR Podcast, where we talk with real people about real money and real estate. So today we got a super exciting episode. We got a special guest, Brent Brewer, on with us today. Super excited to have him on today. And we're going to be talking about a little bit about his business, his success, his routine for success, how he defines, success, kind of where he came from, where he wants to go, and a little bit about his digital agency. And we're going to kind of dive into that and, a little bit about his process for like hiring overseas and a little bit of everything. So we're going to dive right in and get started. So Brent, good to have you, man.
Good to be here, Micaiah.
Good. So we're going to be talking a little bit more about your business, Brent, how you've kind of made it successful, where you've kind of sourced your employees from, and then dive into kind of what your goals are for the future kind of thing. So let's chat a little bit about hiring overseas, because so it's a bit of a sore spot. I was chatting with a guy last night, and he was part of this large company. Anyway, they laid off about 105, 110 employees. And the reason for it was because they hired like hundreds of new employees from India. When they were laying off employees, they said, basically, for one American person, you can hire like 2 Canadian people. And then for 2 Canadian people, you can hire 6 like Indian people.
Well, something we can hold, I think they say now, 50 conflicting thoughts at a time.
Yeah.
So I have conflicting thoughts on the whole thing. And coming from a university background, we talked a lot about neoliberalism and, human labor being easily replaceable in the future, and people wouldn't really have long-term careers the way they do now. So I had some issues with that. But Essential Studios has gone with a blended approach. We do hire local where it makes sense, and then we've also hired abroad. I started the hiring abroad early in the game, even before we incorporated. And where the labor, it seems, at least in our sphere, where people source the labor from changes every so often. Like there'll be kind of hot spots. What I found in practice is that I guess I have a bit of a belief that in the big picture, it can be empowering to folks in undeveloped or developing nations. Now, I only see it from a distance, so I can't know. I'm not them, but it seems that they're getting exposure to a lot of training and new skills, more opportunities. Some people might argue folks here are losing those opportunities. Like I say, we have some local contractors, and they're amazing to deal with. They're at the peak of their game, the ones that we deal with locally. And just like I'm sure many small business owners can attest, we've had some poor experiences with local contractors who really, I don't know if I guess we talk in Essential Studios, we use the EOS business operating system, and it says, if you got somebody in the right seat, if they get it, want it, and have the capacity for it. So what I found is with some local hires, I don't know if they really want it.
Yeah.
I think they have the capacity for it. From what I can see, they like to take, a lot of vacation time. And work-life balance matters.
Yeah.
But some of the wanting it doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah.
So I guess I've always been a believer in life. I have a bit of a philanthropic nature. I like to help people who feel stuck and are trying their best to get unstuck.
Yeah.
So if they're in another country, I'm going to help people get unstuck here. I want to help people anywhere get unstuck. So then it raises the question as a Christian, who is my neighbor, right? Anyway, I could go into that quite deep, and I spend probably too much time thinking about this stuff, but it is a conscious endeavor. I'm not just blindly going, we don't just blindly go to like, oh, there's cheap labor, go there, exploit.
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
And I'll often ask for a tour. of the office, so I can ensure like there's some basic things going right there. You guys have probably heard about Apple's Foxconn. Like they had to install, my understanding, I don't know if this is a fact, but like essentially suicide nets on the building because their employees were jumping out the windows to their own death. Like so we're not dealing with anything like that, but we want to make sure that there's some ethics in place. So that's Essential Studios' perspective on hiring locally and abroad. I've got conflicting thoughts on it. Overall, I think I don't know if we're going to reverse that trend. So that's where we're going. And what else would you like to know about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, you do it. It's been working for you. You wouldn't say you regret it?
I wouldn't say I regret it.
No.
I would say I think there's a lot of people, increasing numbers of small businesses and probably established companies like the one you just cited, starting to experiment with it.
Yeah.
At first, it's a pain because what it's going to do is it exposes your basically training gaps. A lot of the assumptions, the things that you just understand, well, this is just the way it is, kind of goes out the window. You have to be very conscious and explicit about this is how things have to be done. Plus, you're navigating cultural differences, which are real. Like real cultural understandings about time, right? That sounds philosophical, but there are some different outlooks on time. There's different outlooks on how much would a person work and how much surrounding communication, direct communication. In some cultures, direct communication is avoided because it's perceived as rude. So there's some very real challenges there. And without those cultural understandings, people will tend to, I think, throw their hands up in the air and maybe quit. And then I think eventually they're going to come back around and try it again, because I do think there are some significant market forces at play. What else do you want to know on this?
Yeah. I mean, and I'll just say I've worked, directly with, the folks that you've hired, overseas, and they've just been absolutely amazing, and I know that you've, taken time to kind of refine them and train them and whatever, and they've been absolutely awesome. So tell me a little bit about, how you go through the process of finding somebody, do you just Google person that wants to be assistant, or what do you how are you finding people?
Well, we have, at this point, some trusted staffing resources, and I've spoken to you about some of them. But the biggest thing I would say is we have, not all the time, but we try to go in with a clear position outlined, expectations, what kind of metrics, like a scorecard for the employee, so that at performance reviews we can give them a meaningful review. I guess the biggest thing there is the training piece, and I'm assuming that our experience is, just talking to other entrepreneurs, I think staff turnover is a big deal now. So this is where a bit of my e-learning background comes in handy, is we try to have all team members generating training resources, standard operating procedures, and building up a library so that if that day comes and a team member leaves, the time to recalibrate is diminished pretty significantly. So, but that does take time. That, I say to my wife all the time, I'm like, I didn't even meet with the customer today, and I'm exhausted, because trying to make your internal processes clear to somebody else is not so easy.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if I've gotten at what you're trying to capture.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything else you want to know from my limited?
No. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that answers a lot of questions. And I think that gives, some info to people that are kind of considering it, and, things to kind of look out for, and just so, as long as you're doing it in, like you say, like an ethical way, and, you're doing your research, you're doing your training, and you're kind of connecting with the people. Because I mean, you do connect like with like your assistants and people that you're hiring. You get to know them a little bit, and so so that's all valuable. So let's chat a little bit about kind of the future of Brent Brewer and Essential Studios. Where are we going after this? Like, obviously, we've chatted a bit about how you're doing well. You're enjoying it. Now, are you hoping to scale up, or are you just going to kind of stay where we're at here now, or are you, what's the next step here?
Well, we want to scale up, but I don't know. I got to be careful. Some people would say this is maybe a Christian outlook on business. Maybe it's not. I got to be careful. But I guess I just really believe in sustainable growth at this point. I've been in the days of like Grant Cardone's 10X rule and like grind culture and all that. And like something I've discovered, and I'm sure a lot of people can attest, when I talk to some people who say they want to, maybe do 5X next year, first thing that comes to mind for me is, would you even know what to do with the money when it hit you? And I don't think a lot of people would have a plan for it. That's a whole other problem.
Yeah.
Because when you land that money, you need to know, how do I keep this money growing and just not do stupid things with it?
Just spend it, yeah.
Right? So I really believe in sustainable growth. Now, what that number will mean for different people obviously will be different, but for me, I have a kind of number in mind. I'm very, very content with life right now. The biggest thing for me, what's most important to Brent Brewer moving forward, is connection beyond like just human connection. I want to be connected to creation. I want to be connected to my creator, and I want to be the best father, the best husband is my next priority under God and father possible. So I just want to be in a position to, right now I know what I will do with the resources that I've been entrusted with.
Yeah.
I've got a plan for that, and I know what my priorities are.
Yeah.
Where we go from there, I have to be a steward of this business for whatever reason. Like, I've gone through some difficult times in life. The business held. I have an assumption that God wants it there for a reason. So I am going to steward the business, but I'm going to try to be a sustainable steward and keep relationship at the forefront. So that's why I enjoy that discovery process, because I really get to know the people that we're working with. So that and retirement, I have a semi-retirement goal, but I think as long as we're here, we should be, staying at things to a reasonable extent.
I mean, a lot of people I talk to, like they retire and then they go back to work.
Yeah.
Or, you're always going to stay busy. You're always going to do something, right? But yeah, I know what you mean.
But probably, I would say in Essential Studios, my plan right now is to increasingly, I have the label CEO on my LinkedIn profile, but acting like a CEO is a totally different thing. I think a lot of us like to slap that label on, but like acting like a true visionary, there's a whole other side to it. And a person has to be out of some of the details to actually be acting in that capacity effectively. So I'm learning how to be more of a visionary. I've got a good community that is helping me, but it's baby steps. But move into an increasing consultative role in the business, and eventually transition to board of directors, and build the business in such a way that it could be a sellable asset at any time. So that's the current plan. It's not rocket science, but that's the way I'm choosing to steward this resource.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, obviously you want to grow. Obviously you want to help more people. Obviously, you want to, increase your business, but it's got to be a sustainable growth that you're not sacrificing, like you said, your family core values and stuff. Like, you have your business core values, but above that, I'd say is that faith, family kind of core values and stuff. So sustainable growth that allows you to hold on to those things. But if you make some extra money along the way, right on. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like a lot of people, once they start start making more money, and I'm not even excluding myself from this, you spend it. and like you said before, like that was a good point about, I'm going to 5x, 10x my business. But yeah, nobody ever thinks about that. Okay, once I do actually 10x my business or 5x, like, okay, I'm going to have this much extra money. What am I going to do? Like, am I just going to buy a bigger house, buy more cars? Or am I going to keep living the way I'm living and then put it back into my business so then you can scale up even more? Or are you going to put it back into your business so you can hire more people so that you can take more time off and be more hands off? Like, there's a lot to consider. Everybody's business is going to be a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, that's huge. Like I never really thought of it that way. I was just like, I'm just going to make more money so then I can increase my budget here and then, help more people. But yeah, what are you going to do with that money once you got to have a plan for it?
And like, what is the problem we're aiming to solve here? That's the question I always come back to, is like, what problem am I solving with more money?
Yep.
And more money, yes. Again, we've got to be a steward. And sitting on our laurels isn't going to be good for anyone.
Yep.
We got to be productive, and we can create more opportunities for people we care about.
Yeah.
But yeah, what problem are we solving?
Yeah. If they have any questions about Essential Studios or they want to connect with you, how can they do that? What's the best way?
Hop on over to essentialagency.ca, and why don't you schedule a 15-minute strategy call with me? And in that 15 minutes, get to like the core of your business issues pretty quick. So yeah, just even if you're not sure what you want, just grab a 15-minute call. You're gonna get me. That part's not gonna be like delegated to anybody. That's my sweet spot, and I look forward to connecting with you. So essentialagency.ca, and just quickly schedule a 15-minute strategy call, and I look forward to checking in.